Welcome to Bible in the Bar. Here we are in Talia's Steakhouse on the Upper West Side of Manhattan with Professor Nathaniel Berman. Chapter 22 in the book of Deuteronomy contains a kind of troubling passage. We're told of the case of the Motzi Shemra, the slanderous groom. And we're told of a situation where a man, after his wedding night, claims that his wife was in fact not a virgin when they got married. And he spreads this charge about her. And we're told in the narrative that her parents come and they produce physical evidence of the consummation of their marriage and her virginity at the time of marriage, a bloody cheat. I don't know how they got it, but right, they bring it to the public. And in that case, if she's found to have been a virgin, he's punished, right, for slandering her. But if we find that actually she wasn't, she is taken out to the town's elders and is stoned. And we're told, "Ubi'arta hara mikirbecha," right? The evil is expunged from among the people. In language, that's reminiscent of the case of the Ben Sorer Umara, the wayward and rebellious son. So there's a lot of kind of problematics in this narrative, and I was wondering if you can offer some insight into the law and the different variations of what can happen.
Well, this is the kind of passage in the Bible, I think, that suggests that the Bible is written in a different world than ours. When you read this kind of story and this kind of rules, it almost seems as though it's happening on a different planet. It's very hard to imagine any Jewish community in the world practicing this kind of thing, of a fresh bridegroom accusing his bride of not being a virgin, and then if it's true, they take her out and they kill her by stoning. It really sets the scripture off from us at a remove. And I think the question for all of us is, why do we keep on reading this? Why do we read it? Why do we read these passages, even though it's clearly operating in a completely different culture with rules that we would all find horrifying if they were actually put into practice? And it's a strange thing. It's almost as though the classicness of this text, what makes this text different than something that's friendly to us, that is familiar, is precisely the fact that there are things in it that we would find offensive, revolting, criminal, really criminal. And yet we view it as our holy text. And I think that's our paradox, I think, for Jews reading the Torah today, is how do we retain the holiness of a text that is nonetheless clearly, in these kinds of passages, at a really vast gulf of remove from us.
Well, there's also a really interesting emphasis on authority, right? We're told that if she's punished and she sinned, having done so under the authority of, her father's household. There's something telling there in terms of, well, maybe this is less about, kind of sex per se that she may have had, but the, disobeying authority.
Yeah, I mean, it's clearly an artifact of a society in which women are viewed as the property of men. And either she's the property of her father and she's betrayed her father by having sex while she was living in his house, or she's betrayed her husband, and the relationship to the woman is clearly really as chattel. And what do we do with these texts? Do we say, well, what's good about them is it's very honest. This exists all over the world today in more implicit forms, and here we have it right out there honestly, and it's in your face. What are you going to do with it? Reject it? Tear it out of the Torah? What are you going to do with it? Of course, we know that there's a long tradition of rabbinic interpretation in which they try to take passages like this and say, they're not as bad as they look. But I think there's still some reason why we keep reading these texts. Maybe it's to remind us how far we've come from the barbarism of society like that.
Wow. Fascinating. Thank you.
Yeah.